What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. Myself and James, we've got a special guest on from across the pond, Daniel Sutcliffe. Good morning, my friend. Well, actually, I don't know if it's what time is it for you?
No, it is morning. It's 10:30 here, so
Okay,
yeah, not as early as you guys, but
yeah. You can see beside James and I, it's about 6:30 in the morning right now. But hey, anything for the Natty News, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. So, we were talking briefly, being off air that, your follower count's not huge on social media, which I hope we can change. So not a lot of people might not know who you are. So can you give us a brief rundown of who you are, what you're all about, how long you've been in the bodybuilding game, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So I'm a personal trainer. I'm sort of massively always sort of been into my sort of health and my fitness. Did a sports science degree and sort of went into personal training. I've been sort of training for around about 10 years, sort of on and off. I'm sort of relatively new to the bodybuilding kind of scene, I suppose. I did my first season in 2018.
Okay.
And then took I suppose just over a 2-year off season. And I've literally just finished my 2021 season last weekend. So yeah, relatively new. I'm sort of 30. I'm 30 years old, so I started bodybuilding quite late, sort of when I was 27 or competing.
Yep.
But yes, been training for about 10 years or so.
So what got you? No, go ahead, James. Go ahead.
I was just say, so you've had 2 seasons. How many times did you compete in that first 2018 season?
3 times. So I did my first show was a regional BNBF regional qualifier. That was a novice qualifier. I came 5th in that qualifier. It was, a lot of people have said it's probably one of the best novice categories they've ever seen.
Wow.
That stacked lineup. Managed to qualify for the British finals, although I only came sort of 5th on the day. I then did the British finals, the BNBF British finals. That was sort of 12 weeks later. I managed to win that class. So BNBF novice champion in 2018. I then went on to qualify for the DFAC World Finals 4 weeks later in Miami. And I managed to come 3rd in the lightweight category on the day. So
you went from 5th novice to 3rd for Worlds.
Yeah. So quite a turnaround.
You could say that.
The novice show was one of those ones where I did off a 12-week diet, a 12-week prep. I had absolutely no expectations of myself. Yep. It was something I just decided to do randomly. I'd always thought about competing without really sort of taking it, without really thinking about it seriously. I wasn't really that well prepared for the show. I didn't do a proper off season. I was training, but not really enjoying it and not really sort of loving the process. And I wasn't really that invested at the time. Yep. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to do, a bodybuilding show. I wanted to test myself, and I wanted a new focus, and I wanted something to aim towards, and something to challenge me. And I loved it. I loved my first show. I loved the whole process. I loved the whole day and the journey behind it. And I was hooked from that moment, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, for you guys over there, is it the same as here with novices, that there's no weight or height classes? It's just all beginners?
Yeah, all beginners. So
were you against some big boys in that first show?
Yes, there was some big boys.
So for those listening that maybe don't know the ins and outs of bodybuilding, that obviously can very much impact why, Dan came 5th, because he could have been against guys that were, twice his size. But then at the Worlds, he's in the lightweight category, which very much evens the playing field, gives him a better shot at doing well, which clearly reflected in that third place. So just something to note for those listening.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some big guys that day. There were guys who finished seventh and eighth who were fantastic, and they could have quite easily been sort of top three on the day.
Yep.
It was a great class. So yeah, quite an introduction to sort of to bodybuilding. So yeah, off the back of that, I learned quite a bit about what I needed to do. Learned a lot of lessons, and I sort of had 12 weeks to sort of really dial it in for the British finals, which I managed to win, which was fantastic.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to highlight that was, I mean, you said, oh, I've only had 2 seasons. Well, those 2 seasons were pretty influential. I mean, you went, 2 Worlds experiences now, 5 total shows, very high placings. So when you look at it, those are very, condensed 2 seasons, whereas some competitors only compete once a year. So, in a relatively short amount of time, you've amassed a lot of experience, and it's proven well for you.
Yeah, so I did 4 shows this year. Two regionals, British finals, and obviously the world finals as well. So I've managed to do 7 shows in sort of 2 seasons. So yeah, like you say, I've gone from sort of having absolutely no experience whatsoever to sort of, I feel like I'm sort of really into sort of, the bodybuilding kind of competitiveness now. So yeah,
I think there's something to that, doing, especially as a first time, or even doing 2 shows in your first season, if it's a reasonable time frame, because that first show, you're still nervous, you don't know really what's going on, you're not sure if you love it yet, and you can speak to that, where it's, you did 3 shows or whatever that first season, and you were like, okay, I love this stuff, and that just catapulted you to where you are now, right? Whereas maybe you did that first show, you didn't place that well, you're like, man, maybe this isn't for me, and we might not have this conversation right now, right? So I definitely think, if people can swing it, it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree, definitely. And I think there's being able to do a novice show as well, I think is a great thing. I
agree.
It really sort of whets the appetite, and like I said, I was absolutely hooked from that moment onwards. I think even if I didn't place, I think I would have done another show after that. I think I would have been absolutely hooked. Yep. So I think having novice categories at bodybuilding shows is a great thing for sort of new competitors, especially as I wasn't that young. I was 27 years old. It's not like I was a teen or a junior, and I was just sort of finding my way in the sport. I kind of, I was past that point really. So
for sure. So let's look at the time period between that season and this season. What did it look like?
So from November 2018 was the Miami, so the world final. At that point, I then decided to sort of take a really good off season. So from November 2018 until January of this year, so January 2021 was an off season. So it was just over 2 years.
Yep. Important for people to hear.
Yes. That was a very productive time, It was my first, what I would call proper off season, where I was actively trying to gain as much muscle tissue as I possibly could.
Yep.
Previously, before I started competing, I was kind of spinning my wheels, really. I wasn't actively trying to push body weight. I wasn't actively trying to push load in the gym. I wasn't actively trying to progressively overload my lifts. Whereas I took quite a stringent approach to my off season, almost like a prep in a way, where I was, I was really trying to work on weaknesses, on my posing. Anything that I felt like really needed to be worked on, that was a real focus of mine. I managed to sort of push body weight up fairly considerably.
How high did you get?
So stage weight was about 70 kilos. So what's that in pounds? 100, yeah, 150. And my peak off-season weight was about 88 kilos. So what's that? Just shy of.
Let's do some quick math. 88 times 2.2, 193.6. So yeah, you were up there for sure.
Yeah, so I suppose I pushed. Yeah, I was about 40 pounds above stage weight, probably.
Yep.
But I felt like I made some significant improvements. And so, yeah, that 2 year off season, I felt was very productive. Strongest I've ever been in the gym.
What did training look like in that time period?
I have experimented with a few different training splits. So initially, it was a bit of an upper lower split. So when I was training in 2018 for that season, it was very much an upper lower split, and I then may have done like a upper lower, and my fifth day may have been like an arm day or like a day where I sort of dedicate to sort of weaker body parts.
Yep.
I then did experiment with a push pull leg split. So I was doing push pull legs upper lower. Yep. So I was training legs twice per week, and essentially upper body 3 times per week. I felt like I wasn't recovering from that very well. So basically in May of last year, I basically changed my approach to a bro split. So that was basically a 5-day-a-week split. And then I would then do extra frequency on body parts, on weaker body parts. So any extra, extra volume would come on my second or sort of third day of, I'd maybe train arms twice per week or calves twice per week or delts twice per week. Yeah. As I felt like they were weaker body parts. So that was sort of from May last year up until now, and I actually feel like that's worked the best out of any split that I've done. My recovery's been much better. Still having 2 rest days per week, and I'm still able then to get the frequency on the weaker muscle groups.
How did that 7-day split look then? How did you have that? So you had like chest, back, tack on lateral delts in there somewhere, legs.
Yeah, so it'd be usually it would be legs, that followed by chest, and then rest, and then back, shoulders, arms, rest, and I would tag on extra frequency. So I would tag on extra delts on a chest day, for example. Okay. I would tag on extra frequency of biceps on a shoulder day. I would maybe tag on extra calves on a day where it's not as physically demanding or not as physically, basically.
So, something very similar to that is what I've kind of toyed around for my next off season, because I've seen a lot of guys kind of reverting back to the quote unquote bro split, and really not to mince words, seeing really good results from it. And I think it'd be kind of fun to just like hammer one body part again, because we all did it when we were like first in the gym at 20 years old, right? And we all got results, but then over time, whether it was influence from other people or as science has showed certain things as far as frequency goes, but I think the switch up for a lot of guys, because you've been training for however long and now are doing this and are seeing results because it's a different stimulus, right? So I think there's more to it than we might be giving it credit for, and it's something I want to dabble in the off season. And like you said, if you can look at your physique and identify weaknesses, which at your level it's more than likely some small areas, right? A little bit more lateral delt, a little bit more bicep, like you can tack that stuff on and still recover without an issue, right? I've been hitting calves 3 times a week all year, and I'm perfectly fine. I could train them probably every day if I wanted to. So yeah, that's very interesting. I like that insight.
Yeah, and I think, sorry.
I was just going to clarify, are you, since you're a personal trainer, you're around the gym, more frequently than the average person. Are
Yeah.
you doing that in 2 separate sessions? Or are you just throwing it at the end, like that extra volume?
Oh, I throw it in at the end basically, or even at the start. Whenever, as Leroy said, with lateral delts, for example, or biceps or calves, smaller muscle groups, you can kind of do it whenever it really affects your session.
Yeah, you throw 4 sets of laterals on at any given workout, you're perfectly fine.
Exactly. Yeah. I do think you can probably do that sort of if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to hammer that volume, you could do it maybe 3 or 4 times per week, and it wouldn't really affect your recovery that much.
Yeah.
Doing sort of 3 sets of lateral raises 3 times a week, I don't think would be too much of an issue for my recovery capability. Same with biceps.
Did you notice the arm day really make a difference?
Huge difference.
Everybody I've talked to has said that.
I just feel like you can really concentrate, really connect, really, you're not fatigued from previous from that previous volume that you've been doing in that session. If you've been doing if you've done a big back session and then you're then trying to hit the biceps at the end of a session, sometimes you just don't get that connection, do you? You don't feel like you're actually getting much out of your biceps at that time. So
even I find people don't think about just like the mental fatigue. Like after, like, back, for example, like if you've done a lot of like heavy rows, heavy pull downs, I do like a lot of trap work right now because that's an area I wanted to bring up. So I'm doing shrugs and face pulls and stuff, like all these big hard movements. Like mentally, like the last thing I want to do is now I got to do biceps. Like I'm done here. I'm done. So you can only imagine the quality of those reps, right?
Exactly.
It's shit.
Definitely going to be diminished. So having that up, I think is really helped focus. Really prioritizing that weak area. And don't get me wrong, it's still weak, and I still want to work on it, but I would definitely keep that arm day in, and then hit biceps with a bit more frequency in this off season as well, I think.
Yeah, listening to your split, I would probably just do, if you had my own arm day, then I would just throw in like 1 or 2 tricep movements just right at the end of chest, just to get a little bit extra volume, but not like a typical push day where you're trying to get all your tricep work done in that day. Like if I do, 3 sets of push downs and like 1 set of dips to failure, okay, that's my tricep work after all my chest stuff. And then I'll do my arm day where it's like, okay, triceps are going to get a beating today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It gives you that flexibility.
Screen share. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. Can you see your Instagram here?
I can, yeah.
All right, people. Hopefully you guys can see all this too. So let's go to this season. What was the first show?
The first show was at the NBF Midlands.
Is that this one here?
That's the one.
So, hey, Steve Hall. There we go.
Yeah, Steve Hall. Yeah, he was great that day, and Mark came second that day as well.
So you took the W here.
Yeah, managed to win that show.
When you look at these photos, what do you see that you're happy with, and what do you see that you wanted to improve continuing through this season?
What was I happy with?
Or was this like a good look? Were you just like, yeah, I nailed it?
No. We knew that. So the idea was to without sounding too confident, too cocky. The idea really was to qualify, to be good enough to qualify for the finals with this look. We knew that we weren't going to come in absolutely shredded and on the money in terms of condition. So I was around about 4 kilos above sort of where we thought we were going to be in terms of stage weight at this point. So what was that, like 9 pounds probably above where I actually ended up in terms of my world final body weight. So conditioning wise, we knew we needed to improve on this.
Yep.
I was happy with the overall look. I was happy with the fullness. I was happy with the improvements that I'd really made from my last show.
Yeah, your upper body is about to burst.
Yeah, I felt really, really full this day. So the overall look I was happy with. And in terms of the mass and the fullness, and I'd obviously I could see that I'd made improvements from my last showing in 2018, big improvements across the board. However, the conditioning wasn't there. So the goal from this point was to then sort of really rein it in terms of conditioning and get peeled basically.
Yep. Awesome. All right. So then UKDFBA was next.
Yeah, the UKDFBA Heart of England.
Yeah, the overall champ right now.
Yeah, so that was an amazing day. That was an absolutely amazing day. I was completely
that shot right there. That is such a money shot, man. That is such a good pose on you.
I mean that's great to hear, because that was my worst shot by a mile in 2018, and it shouldn't have been. But it's just the fact that I couldn't pose in 2018. My posing was awful.
Another thing too, if you don't have good arms, there's two poses I find that get trashed. It's your side chest and your front double. If your arms are small, then the pose is just a wash. So, speaking probably to the progress you made over the off season, definitely helped this pose.
Yeah, I agree. So that was probably my most improved pose of the, compared to 2018, definitely my most improved shot, which I was really happy with. Most muscular as well. I was happy with that shot, because it was, again, it should be a good pose for me, but I absolutely butchered it in 2018. I butchered my side chest and butchered my side tricep, but so the posing definitely improved from 2018 to now, and you can see conditioning is again better from the BNBF shot.
I was going to ask you about that, because your legs are definitely more in this in this set of photos for sure.
Yeah, my legs take a while to come in. They are the last thing that come in. I mean, my upper body was sort of almost there, but definitely my quads and glutes and hamstrings, they really did take a while to come in, but they were starting to come in at this point, and this was sort of 5 weeks after the BNBF qualifier. So
so we took that, and then the big one. Look at that.
Yeah. So that's the Worlds. There was the British finals was 2 weeks before this. But the British finals managed to win that one as well. And then this is the big one. This is the big one, which was last weekend. Yeah.
So short class, correct?
Short class. They increased they changed the height classes on the day or a couple of days before, I think. So it was up to 170 centimeters, and they then increased it to 172, which meant that there was an extra 4 people in our class, I believe. It was a stacked class. I think there was 14 in our class.
Yep.
Managed to take the win, which was absolutely unbelievable.
I just want to quickly note they did a killer job on those medals with the whole vampire.
So good.
That's cool. So for those listening, this was the INBA Worlds in Romania, where Dan took the win in his height class. Who won the overall? Do you remember?
Yeah, the junior guy. I can't remember what his name was.
Oh yeah, he's from
Slovakia.
Yeah, he's
phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal athlete. I think he's only 22. I think he holds pro status in another division, another federation, maybe at home. But great athlete.
Yeah,
great athlete.
So what prevented you from going to the Natural Olympia?
A few things. I felt like I spoke to Lee Kemp, the president of the UKDFBA, and he was very much of the opinion that the Natural Olympia is a fantastic pro show, a fantastic event for pro athletes, not so much for amateurs. That was his honest opinion.
In what form did he say? Can you say it all, or am I going to get?
Yeah, no, he was basically of the opinion that the worlds in Romania were of a better standard, basically, more stacked classes, more competitors, better standard, and he did sort of specify for amateur athletes. You know, he said the pro lineups are absolutely great, you know, fantastic, stacked lineups, lots of competitors, and very competitive. But for an amateur athlete, the INBA Worlds in Romania was the sort of the creme de la creme, you know, the pinnacle. And
so even though you won at Romania, you're not a pro yet?
No. So they only gave the pro cards to the overall winner. So that the guy who won the junior guy who won the overall. Yeah. So very difficult to get to sort of attain a pro card. And that, you know, that is obviously something that I'm sort of striving towards. I'm not sure I'm at the standard at the moment. So obviously the idea now is to take a sort of a long off season and again make further improvements towards that goal. But yeah, I just felt like after the Worlds in Romania, I felt done. I felt like it's been a long season. It's been a 40-week prep, and you know, with the traveling and the way that I felt after the show, I felt tired. I felt sort of physically and mentally
smart to shut it down.
I just felt like I wouldn't have been at my best. You know, I had I done the Natural Olympia, which is now next week. It's now sort of, you know, we'd be flying out to America on Tuesday or Wednesday. Yep. And I know others are doing it. And yeah, good luck to them. It's going to be an absolutely amazing show. And it's something that I want to do in the future. But I just felt like I wanted to end on that high in Romania. I felt like that was, I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve. I won a world title, which was sort of, you know, way more than I expected this year. And I was really happy with that. So,
yeah. Awesome, man. All right, dude, let's close this out with the future plans. So what's the next, you just briefly mentioned there, a long off season. So what's kind of the forefront of your mind right now?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking next year off. 2023 at the earliest will be next time I step on stage, maybe even 2024. I do feel like the 2-year off season was incredibly productive and worked really well for me. Yep. And I'm not in any rush to sort of jump back on stage. I love the whole process of bodybuilding, which was, you know, that was lacking in 2018. It felt like this year I've sort of reinvigorated sort of that love for competing and bodybuilding. So I'm just going to enjoy the off season, enjoy the process of working on my weaknesses and making progress in the gym.
Awesome.
Long-term goal is to obtain a pro card, or at least be of that standard to obtain a pro card. I'd love to compete again at a world finals. I'd love to go to the Natural Olympia. So yeah, those are sort of the long-term goals, really.
Yep. That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you were able to come on, man. I really appreciated this. This was good.
Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Social media wise, where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram is the main one, really. So I'm Dan Sutcliffe Fitness on Instagram. So yeah, head over to there. Like you say, I'm not sort of massively active on social media, but maybe over the next sort of few weeks I should maybe put some more show spam up.
Yeah. Sure.
Get some more photos up from the Worlds and stuff like that. So when the pro pics land, then maybe you get a bit more spam.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. And you heard it there to where to follow Dan. Show him some love. Show him some support on social media. We appreciate you guys. We just passed 8,000 followers on Instagram, which is pretty crazy to think about considering how short of a time we've been doing this. And, we're pretty confident we're going to hit 10K before the end of the year. So thank you for all the support. Us natural athletes really appreciate the love. So thanks again, guys. And we'll see you guys in the next one.